Hello.
Hey, welcome to We'd Rather Be Reading. I'm Jerrica.
And I'm Leah.
So, what have you been doing this week?
I've been busy this week, but I've been reading, of course. Been taking a break from all the books that we're reading for this pod and just been plowing my way through some other books.
That have been on your saved list for a while?
So I read all 3 books in the Illuminate Files by J. Christoph and Amy Kaufman.
Oh, cool.
And I really like those enough that I'm going to buy them for my son for his birthday. Don't tell him, it's in a month. So don't tell him. He doesn't listen to this.
He doesn't listen to this.
We're all good. He's almost 14. This is not his. Not his cup of tea. And then I've been reading the Red, White and Royal Blue by someone.
That's an alternative reality story about the royals.
It's a story in which the first son in the United States, the son of the president of the United States, falls in love with the youngest prince of England. Which is nice. The only thing, it's by Casey McQuiston. Mm-hmm. And it's... funny thing, it came out, I don't know when it came out, but it takes place in 2020 by someone who clearly did not know that 2020 was going to be a pandemic year. It came out in 2019.
Oh, right.
So took me out of the story a bit. Like, I can get behind all the other different president, different royal family kind of thing, but big parties in 2020 October,
No.
I'm like, no,
Not allowed.
You guys should be wearing your masks. Clearly this is unsafe. But apart from that, good book. I really liked it. Really enjoyed it. Yes. So what have you been up to?
I read this trilogy of The Cursed Prince. It is a elf trilogy, and I told you about it. I actually saw it, but we had dinner together, and your husband was like, "Oh, you guys and your elf romances," or something like that, and I was like, you know what? It's been a while. It's been a while since I read an elf romance. So
it's true.
Let me get into it.
The Deal with the Elf King, I think, was the last one.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I like that. I like those books a lot. I like Elise Kova
We should go back to Elise Kova.
We should
read more Elise Kova.
Done and done.
Done. We have a plan.
But, so I got a cold last week because my daughters did. And it was nice weather. And then you know what you do when it's nice weather and you have a cold? You build a deck. Oh, you thought I was going to say read?
Of course. That's what I do all the time, on my balcony, since I don't even have a backyard.
No, my husband was like, oh, you're not going to be at work today. Oh, let's start building our deck. It's nice weather outside. And I'm like, oh, but I don't feel good. Well, it's going to be fine if you're outside and you get fresh air and all that wood and stuff.
And all that pollen, which is great. Like, pollen's been our mortal enemy this past week. Like, my entire family are so allergic to pollen, and it's just been dreadful. We actually went to the West Coast this weekend for the long weekend, and it was really nice. It was good weather, and it's nice to get away.
It's finally nice weather in Sweden. But because we were building a deck, I got to plow through a ton of audiobooks. So I finished this trilogy. We're going to talk about it on Thursday because in the last book, which, by the way, I really like this trilogy, but in the last book, she makes a lot of noises. Sometimes the narrator will say that there is a noise, but not actually make the noise. But she makes the noise, and I just so badly want you to guess what that noise is supposed to be because it made me laugh and be like, immediately write this down in the notes. Name that noise. Leah's gonna love this.
All right. So next week, next episode, we will do that for sure.
So I plowed through those 3, and then Scribe put me in book jail, like in a serious book jail, where like all of my saved ones were gone, except for one.
You cannot do this to us.
I know.
I think
Scribe
rude.
This is so
but I think
rude.
Scribe need to work on a business plan where if you hit book jail, you should be able to pay a little bit of extra to get out of it earlier. Because like
they're losing money because now I'm buying the book somewhere else.
Seriously heavy readers here. We need more books than Scribe can provide for us. That's why I have 2 audiobooks services. Yeah, I'm on Storytel as well, which is, it's working out. I'm not hating it. Not loving it either, but I'm not hating it.
Okay.
So,
So I was in book jail, and the only books that were available for me, that was this book called Taming. You should see the cover of this. You would be like, okay, pass. But it is like
a name. I'm passing already. Taming.
Yeah, and then Taming, and then the subnote is to tame a shifter. And actually, like, listen to the concept of the book. She is a wild animal tamer.
Uh-huh.
And she's a mage. But like a secret mage, because she wasn't really taught her magic, but she knows she's a mage, but she doesn't really know how to use the magic. Anyways, she finds these 3 eggs, and she's like, oh, I will like grow these eggs, hatch them, and whatever they come to be, I will then sell them to the prince or the king. And cha-ching, I make lots of money by taming these new beasts and then selling them off. It's like, okay, this is a decent concept. Sure, this can be cool, like a little Arabian Nights kind of feel to it. Mm-hmm. Anyways, she tames these dragons. They end up being 3 dragons, Khaleesi style. Okay. But guess what happens? They turn into men. Hot men. So they shift into men, and then they're like, ta-da, we have a task to do. And you just ended up with us by accident.
So when I was little, my grandmother gave me these books, and they're like folklores and stuff from around the world. Cool. And my absolute favorite one of those stories is called The Linden Worm.
Okay.
And it's about a queen and a king that can't have babies. And then the queen meets this witch in the woods, and she's like, I can help you have babies. Look, I'm going to plant these 2 flowers here. There's going to be a red one and a white one. If you want a girl, you're going to take the red one, or like the white one. And if you want a boy, you're going to take the other one. I can't remember which is which. But you cannot, under any circumstance, take both of them. And she needs to eat them. And the queen's like, oh, great. This is awesome. And then she goes, and the flowers are there. And she eats both of them because she wants 2 babies and because she gets greedy. And then instead of a boy or a girl being born, it's a little fucking dragon snake being born out of her.
Twist.
And then he's the prince. I mean, they don't have any other kids, you know, so he's the prince. He's the crown prince. He's going to take over the kingdom, and they need to now marry him away.
But so is he a man
But he's kind of like a conscious, I guess, Linden Worm. He's a conscious little dragon boy. Anyways... So they keep bringing all these princesses there, and he keeps marrying them and then eating them on the wedding night. So then after a little while, all the kingdoms around, they were like, well, fuck you, we're not sending you any more of our princesses. Like, they die. This does not work out very well. So then they have to kind of just find someone else. So they go back into the woods, and they find this wood carver who has a beautiful daughter. And they say, well, you're going to have to marry the prince. And she's like, I don't want to. He's going to freaking eat me. And they were like, well, you have to. Sorry. So she's like very sad in the woods, and this old lady shows up again. And she's like, why are you sad? And she's like, well, I have to marry the freaking dragon prince, Linden Worm thing, and he's going to kill me. And then the old lady tells her how to defeat him. So she needs to wear 11 nightgowns on their wedding night. So when they're married, and then they go up to their chambers, and she needs to have a bath full of milk, and she needs to wear 11 nightgowns, so 12.
Okay.
And then he will say, take off your dress. And she's like, I'll take off my dress if you take off your skin. And he has 11 skins. So by the time the 11th one is off, she still wears one, but he is now skinless. And then she needs to bathe him in the milk and wrap him up in sheets. And then when he wakes up the morning after, he's a prince. Like, he's back to being like the prince.
Okay.
And they actually live happily ever after, and he's actually quite a kind prince once he becomes a boy. So this is what I'm grown up on. This was my absolute favorite story. I love this story. We have these books at home. I'm trying to get my kids to read them. Great. They don't care for them. Absolutely. I don't understand why. There's another one with like lemons that are people. It's fantastic. These books are fantastic.
I love folklore. But in this book, they did not get wrapped in milk and bathed and wear many nightgowns. In fact, it's questionable whether they wear clothes at all because they shift into dragons, and the girl who's the tamer girl, she's actually quite hilarious about it. She's like, God damn it, I have to keep buying you idiots clothes, and you keep shifting and breaking the pants. Like, I'm not made out of money, and I'm not your mother. Like, take your clothes off before you shift into dragons and stop wasting all these damn clothes and all my damn money. And then they're like, yeah, but we're hot. And she's like, okay.
Well, if you're hot, well, why didn't you say so?
Okay, I'll buy you new clothes.
I'll buy you new clothes.
But she, like, complains about feeding them, so I feel a little bit like this is written by a mom of boys, because she's like, gosh, how much are you guys eating? Like, so much like a mom of a boy would be talking. But at the same time,
feeling that's pretty close.
I know, close to home right now.
Yes. The incessant need for food.
But so, even though Scribe put me in book jail, I say, aha, to Scribe because I really like this taming series. And you want to know what a twist is to the end of all of this? It's a reverse harem book.
No! So she's going to have all the dragon boys. Yeah, so but she's their mama and girlfriend? This is weird.
It's really actually questionable. I'm on book 3, and she's only in a relationship with 2 of the guys. And they're not related to each other, so that's good. Oh, and they're also in love with each other. So it's kind of like...
It's kind of like an orgy style.
No, but it's like a permanent threesome. Like a throuple kind of thing.
Yeah.
A throuple.
Yeah.
So, but it's loose throuple because she's still managing them. Mm-hmm. But then there's like her ex-boyfriend that comes into play, and he's like, I will always wait for you. And she's like, all right, come hang out with us. And now they met one of the other guys' brothers, and he's 10 years younger than the current guy. And she's like, wow, you guys look identical to each other, even though you're 10 years apart. And I'm like, God, she's going to sleep with him. But anyways, it's not as like sexy harem as the other book that I read was, which was not like so spicy either. But there's not that much sex in it. There's just like, I'm going to kiss this boy. And then he turns into a dragon and rips all his clothes off.
Fair enough. As they do.
So,
but we have finished Plain Bad Heroines.
And I gotta say, this was a freaking struggle for me.
It was long. It was very long. And I, in my very poor, super summary ways, have decided to give this one a crack.
Oh, yes.
Which is going to be hard for everyone to follow, including myself. So bear with me and brace yourselves. Pray for me.
Okay, what is this book about, Leah?
Okay, this book is about a movie production. This book is about a movie production of a happening that happened 100 years ago at a school in Rhode Island. And it's basically connected through the women in the story. And it's a story about a curse being laid on a land where the school is by these brothers, the Rash brothers, because they unfairly treated the woman who owned a slice of land that divided the Rash brothers separate parts of the land. And she was okay with selling this land to them if they were being honest with her and would just say that we would have paid you the same amount of money if I was a man. And they lied to her, so she cursed them, and then they killed her. And this curse then stays on the land, which affects the school, where these girls die from this yellow jacket attack. And there's also these poisonous flowers that give you hallucinations. So it's basically a long hallucinogenic fever dream, this whole thing. And now it's a movie production about this happening at the school where these girls died from the yellow jacket attack. And it's being done in a way of kind of a Blair Witch Project where they're going to do a movie about the making of as they're making the movie. And there's going to be a lot of spoilers here because they talk to one of the girls and says, you're the only one who knows that we are doing this, so you have to act even when you're not acting, and you're going to get like, things going to happen and you're going to be the only one who knows and the other ones won't. But then it turns out they did that to all of them. So they all know, but they don't think the other one knows. And then they're all playing each other. And but the thing is that this place, yes, there's lots of weird stuff happening, but this place is also freaking cursed. So lots of things that happened are actually happening.
Yeah.
And they're not fake and pretend happening. And then at the end, no one dies and the 3 girls are pretty happy and continuing their careers, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is...
But Eleanor dies by eating the flower.
But there's lots of people that die. They die in 1902. It's the 2 girls, the Flora and the other one. They die in 1902, and this is what the movie is about. And then there's the Eleanor girl who dies a couple of years later.
Okay,
and then
it's back in the day.
The woman who was the last of the Brookons.
Annabelle? What's her name?
No, it's not Annabelle. She also dies because she dies in the freaking stairs.
Right.
And her lover had died in the same stairs. So
Is this Libby and Alex?
Yeah, Libby and Alex. Yeah. They both die. Yeah. But like many years apart kind of thing. And then it turns out at the end, and I had to write this down. So basically this whole thing is because of the Rash brothers. And the Rash brothers and the Verrett Society, which is a French society where they're doing some shit magic stuff to allow same-sex people to create babies. I'm not entirely sure how that hang on to anything, but the Rash brothers killed the girl in the cottage who was dividing the land, and she just asked for honesty, and they wouldn't give it to her. But it's like Libby's daughter is not really her daughter, and it's like, it's weird, and the person like Simon is Simone in reality. It got complicated, people. And yes, I did kind of like this book, but I don't like it for this purpose of this podcast, because it's too freaking hard to summarize.
Yeah.
And I've done a poor job of it, so I apologize for that, because, well, it was hard. It was hard.
There were so many times during the book where I was just going to message you and be like, I am lost. you have to either catch me up, or I have to re-listen to this book. It was many, many hours. I listened to it as an audiobook, and I think a part of me regrets listening to it versus reading it, because the narrator didn't make too many voices for different people, so it was sort of monotone the whole time. Not that she was a bad narrator, but she wasn't. But it was
hard to know where we were at in the story, because it jumps back and forth in time, and it jumps between people who have like the points of view, and then a lot of them had fairly similar voices, kind of thing. So it was like, where are we now? Who are we following? What's going on?
And a part of me thought in the audiobook, so the narrator says very often, you hear that, readers? Or you follow me, readers? Or something about like, she's engaging with us. And it was like, is she trying to make us like, are you listening? kind of thing. Like, hey, are you still following along? I'm like, yeah, I'm here. What happened? Oh, Libby. Okay. Libby and Alex. Secret lesbian affair. Okay, go. It was kind of like I had to keep speed tracking like my thought process, like summarize everything that just happened in the last few chapters, like in a few seconds in my brain, and then continue listening. Anyways, I didn't like that hey readers thing. Also, who the heck is the narrator?
I'm not sure who the narrator is.
Is she supposed to be the writer?
I think the narrator is Merritt, yeah, probably. Because at the end of the day, Merritt wrote the book that is the basis for the movie. And then while the movie is being done, she's writing the book about the movie. Of the house. So it's basically a book of a book.
But did you know, and I looked this up only after, that this Mary McLean book is a real book?
No.
It's a real friggin' book.
I did not know that.
So it's a real book. I had read some reviews to be when I was looking for who the narrator is, because I was like, I lost something there. Am I supposed to know who the narrator is in the book? Because she seems to be like wanting to engage with you. So which one of the characters is she? And I didn't really follow that. So I looked in some of the reviews to pick it up, and they were like, oh, you can buy this Mary McLean book at this store, and it wasn't at this store, but it's at this store. And I'm like, oh, shoot, the real book. So it is like this, I don't know, a gothic retelling of a horror story, more or less, like witches, haunted mansion kind of stuff, curses and things like that, but a lot of complex character work in between. And everything, most of the characters are all homosexual. They're mostly lesbians. And did Merritt end up with Harper, and
I think she ended up with Audrey, but I'm not sure because it wasn't super clear.
No. So this is my takeaway. What happened in this book? I'm not so sure. It held me 10% of the time. I hated the hey readers lines. And I couldn't even tell you pretty much what this book was about.
No, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
No.
I think I would have enjoyed reading this book, much like you said.
Yeah.
I would have preferred reading it rather than listening to it. And I think if I would have read it, I would have probably found it a lot creepier than I did too. Because there's horror elements in this book that they weren't quite scary when I was listening to it. But it could also be that I got distracted and didn't pay enough attention. And it was a little bit hard, the jumping back and forth. But saying that, I did like the book.
Okay.
And I would probably give it like a solid 4 stars, honestly.
Because it was well written and
the book
conceptualized.
that it was. And if I would have educated myself a little bit more on exactly what kind of book this would have been before going into it, I think I would have been better prepared for it. But I wasn't expecting it to be this. And that's on me because I did choose this book. So, but you know, with that said, I think it's Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. I don't think we said that before. I would say read it, don't listen to it. Or if you listen to it, pay close attention because you might want to have like a little pen and paper in front of you so you can do little drawings and do little lines between people so you keep track of who the frick everyone is because it was hard. And then also don't let Leah choose the books because then going to the next book that we were supposed to read, I had Followed by Frost, and I was super freaking excited. I'm like, yay, we're going to read Followed by Frost. It's by this author that I like. It's by Charlie N. Holmberg, who wrote The Paper Magician, which I love that series. Okay. So I'm like, great, I'm going to start reading this. First chapter, I'm like, these names feel familiar. And I go looking through all of my reading apps. I look at my Goodreads. No, it doesn't say that I've read it. I'm like, fine. It's probably, you know, similar to something else. Keep reading. I'm like, fuck, I know how this book is going to end. Like, I know this book. What is going on? And then digging a little bit deeper, realized I have, in fact, actually read this book before. So we had to drop it. But I have to say, though, that Followed by Frost is actually a really good book. And The Paper Magician is a fantastic book. So if you haven't read that, you should.
So we decided to read a book that we've been talking about reading for so long, but we've been waiting for the series to be all out because we like to plow through books the way we watch Netflix, you know, like
for sure.
You're not going to watch one episode a month kind of thing. Like I need to have these books so that it doesn't end on a cliffhanger, so we don't have the Holly Black situation happen to Leah again.
And the Cassandra Clare.
And the Cassandra Clare.
Freaking hell. Keep getting burned.
We've learned our lesson. Or have we? Because now we've decided to go ahead and read it, even though the
fourth book is not out. But on this note too, this is the book that we've chosen for this one is actually by the author that basically led us to start this podcast in the freaking first place. Because back in the fall, we read the Bargainer series.
By Laura Thalassa.
And it's rhapsodic and, I don't know, harmonic and, I don't know.
Weird names for the Bargainer series. But
musical names.
The Bargainer makes sense because he's a bargainer. And
we loved these books. We
much
wrote to each other continuously.
I think that our husbands at that point considered whether or not we were having an affair.
Yeah, for sure. We would text each other at all hours of the day and night to just talk about these books. Because
like no judgment at all. It's like 2:00 in the morning. Oh, good, you're still awake reading these too. It was
wonderful, wonderful. And these books, if you haven't read them, you must.
It's a must.
It's a must. It's about this girl and about this... What is he, a fairy?
No, he's the Dark Prince, right?
But
he's the Prince of Darkness.
Elf or fairy. He's something like that. He is some
He's wings.
Yeah. Okay. I think he's a fairy. I think he's like an elf. He's you know, like a creature, like a magical creature.
Yeah.
And he's the king of the dark. He's got to be the fairies because it's spring and winter, and then it's light and darkness, summer and whatever. And he's the king of the winter darkness one, basically. And he is the god of sex and violence and chaos.
Yeah.
And this book gets steamy, people, if you consider Missionary steamy. It was hilarious.
It was like, oh wait, I'm gonna.
And it's like the first time. Missionary style with eye contact. Coming to the second time, we're like, yay, spicing it up in Missionary with eye contact.
And then there's one point where they're coming out of some sort of pool, and I'm like, oh wait, I think he's lifted her up. I think that this is not.
But then
and then he put her down.
Halfway leaning Missionary with eye contact. It is so much Missionary. These books are filled with Missionary. It's like religious reckoning Missionary.
Where you think that it's going to adapt and get more creative because he's the god of sex, everybody. And if you're the god... Sex. But, I mean, he pleases her, but in Missionary every time.
In Missionary. And you need eye contact to come. We have learned this.
Yes.
that eye contact is essential for coming.
There's no orgasm
If you
without eye
don't look
contact.
at people, you cannot come.
No.
These books are telling us this. It's over and over. She cannot get there, but then he's like, look at me. And then she's all, yes, it's happening. I'm there.
So,
Great.
and there's a lot of twists and turns in this book too, because she ends up being a magical creature. But we want you to read it, so we're not going to
she's
spoil.
a siren.
Okay,
she was always
fine.
she's
You-
already
you ruined
no, but she's always a magical creature. She's a siren. They tell us there in the beginning. She's
Okay, but
always a
then she
siren.
adapts to be something
no, then
more.
she's with the crazy king of the Spring Kingdom, and he changes her. But she's a siren. She's always a siren.
But she's like a tiny siren, and then she eventually gets her full
basically she
powers
has,
and like changes the way she looks.
she's a
and stuff.
siren, but because she's human, she can manipulate and control human men. But because he's not human, she cannot control him.
Right.
That's the thing.
And she's
Anyways,
also a virgin.
no.
No, that's
No,
right.
she's not.
That's right. So this guy
She's
shows up at her door, and
not.
she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Don't you remember 7 years ago we made a pact
Yeah, and she has
that
a
you were going to
beads
be with
around
me?"
her
And then
wrist.
for 7 years, he wasn't able to
gave
be with her.
Every time he gave her, made a bargain with her and helped her in one way, she gets a bead around her, and she has like 300 beads, and no one else has more than 2 because, well, you don't want to be in debt to the bargainer.
But she just bargains with this guy, and
it's
then
great.
he's like, "Wait a second, you made a pact with me, basically like a marriage contract." And then the magic pulled us away from each other, and you go ahead and fuck like 4 or 5 guys or something like
sure.
that. While I have to stand here on the other side of the line and watch.
It's great. It's great. You should read it. So
Okay,
much missionary. It's got all of my hate tropes. It's got mating, soulmates.
Love
It's
it.
got,
I loved it so much.
Oh, it's glorious. And he's got long silver hair, which I changed in my mind to black hair.
No, that's why I liked it so much, because he was the Witcher to me. He was like
whereas
really
every
hot.
time I read silver, I changed it in my head to black.
I
Yes.
stuck with it. Silver
you
is
stuck
all
with
the
it.
way.
Anyways, so we
we're
are
reading.
returning to our roots of Laura Thalassa, and we are so excited about this.
So we're reading Pestilence.
We're reading Pestilence. She is releasing a book series about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And the first one is Pestilence.
And I cannot wait for Missionary.
Pestilence.
Do you think there's going to be something other than
Gonna
Missionary?
be so much missionary. We're so excited.
much Missionary.
So Pestilence, we have 3 covers to judge here. The cover that I have is the one with like a gilded frame kind of thing, where he has his
Golden.
I have to say, this armor is not very covering and protective of his chest, but his shoulders are very well protected. So
I'm approving
We are all
of the gold tattoos that
there is
line
the
all the way
little
down
gold
to
tattoos. And he looks very moody. Very, very
He also
moody.
looks a little feminine with this curly long
Come
hair.
on, those abs. He does not look feminine.
I don't know. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, she's like a butch Viking princess.
No, he's a pretty boy Pestilence here. Very hot. So that's one of the cover. The other cover is him looking very moody
Yes.
again. Here
And
he looks very girlish,
Like
I
I
have to
just
say.
said, he is a little femmy in this one,
And
too.
she is this brunette. I don't know what the frick she's wearing. Leather. Of course she's freaking wearing leather. Okay. And yeah, he seems like he's into her. She's looking at us. There's snow.
Yeah.
And then it's the third cover. They're dancing. She's in a black ball gown, and he's still looking pretty feminine here.
But
Honestly,
he's like gold
got his,
armor, gold skin,
and
and
the
like
golden
blonde,
crown.
gold crown and gold blonde hair. And
Yeah.
very, very strong and very tall, right? And
Yeah.
then the girl, she's brown hair, fair skin,
Yeah,
and looks pretty normal.
yeah. So we've read the first 3 chapters. I think I accidentally read 4.
I think I accidentally read a couple more because they were so short. I figured, oh, I must be around chapter 3 now, but I didn't.
I think
I'm
we
listening to it,
stopped.
so I don't think I followed where the chapters were.
So, I'm going to summarize what happens here. I think I just read the first 3 chapters, actually. But Pestilence by Laura Thalassa. So 5 years ago, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse came, and wherever they went, planes fell out of the sky and technology failed. Then they disappeared. Poof, gone. Shit's still not working. Technology and electricity is still on the fritz a bit here, and planes are still not really flying very well. So, setting the world back a little bit as far as
there's a
advancement
sickness.
goes. No, but this is 5 years ago.
Okay.
And now, one of the horsemen has showed up again. It's Pestilence. He's riding on a nice white horse. He shows up in Florida, of course, because where the freakish things show up is always in Florida. And wherever he rides, people get sick with the fever and they die. So we are following our main character. Her name is Sarah. And I think her name is Sarah.
Okay. I actually don't know.
I think her name is Sarah. I wrote Sarah anyways. Okay. She's going to be Sarah until I'm proven wrong here. Okay, she's going to try to kill him. She's a firefighter in Whistler, Canada.
I know. Like, how strange is it that all of this is happening in Canada? It's awesome.
She's in Whistler, Canada, and she's a firefighter. And her and 3 other firefighters are pulling like straws or matchsticks, I guess, to decide who gets to stay behind to try to kill this pestilence dude once and for all. And she draws the short straw. So she has to stay to try to kill him. And when he comes down the road, she brings out her shotgun, her daddy owes ones, and she shoots his horse. And then the whole shotgun doesn't kill, and she shoots the horse and then shoots him. Shotgun wound doesn't kill him, so she douses him with lighter fluids and sets him on fire, and then she proceeds to watch him burn.
Intense.
This is where we end up.
No, okay.
This is the end of chapter 3.
This is the end of chapter 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So knowing the cover, at least with the dancing, and knowing Laura Thalassa, knowing this is going to be some romance stuff, I'm going to base my prediction on the fact that he is not actually dead here, just so you know. Even though here he is dead when we end up at the end of chapter 3. And she's a firefighter, and she says while she's burning him, this is not really what my job is supposed to be. No. So I like her inner thoughts and her background like corpse. Like, I think she's pretty funny. Just as the last book characters were too. We would message
Callie,
each other about what Callie would say.
And Des. So, prediction time. I start off with saying it's dumb that technology is failing. So clearly I am upset about this. So far, it's dumb that technology fails when the horseman comes. Should be crops dying, etc. I'm just saying. Regardless, if Pestilence was easy to kill, someone else would have done it in America, where everyone and their grandma has a gun, instead of only Sarah and Whistler who has. Like, she's not the only one who would have thought of this. Like, it is impossible. Come on.
And one little girl, because he talks about
Sarah and Whistler is the only one who has the thought of, let's try to kill Pestilence to stop it. No, someone else must have done this. If it was easy to kill, someone else would have already done it in America, where everyone has guns. So I'm predicting a mating bond here. And the reason why I'm predicting a mating bond is because this is a freaking biblical... Actually, let me phrase this exactly how I wrote it.
Okay.
Mostly because there is no way a biblical horseman of the apocalypse would fall for a rando girl unless there were literal mating bond strings connecting them.
Okay. I did not pick up on there was going to be a mating bond because she's a freaking firefighter in Whistler and he's Pestilence, a horseman of the apocalypse.
Yes.
Like, she has to at least have some secret powers. So my prediction was that Sarah from Whistler, I can't believe her name is Sarah. That throws it off for me a tiny bit.
I'm going to have to make sure that's actually a name, but I think it is.
I didn't pick up on what her name was, actually.
They only say it in the beginning when she does when they pull the straws. I'm gonna do a little search, or I can't do a search.
But I also predict romance. But I predict that there's something hidden within Sarah the way that there was something hidden within Callie.
Yeah, it's Sarah.
It is Sarah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. So something is hidden within Sarah. She's going to become like a savior of the apocalypse, and she's going to be the answer to all things, and she's going to be from a long line of ancestral meant-to-be's and fates and whatever. I think
you're wrong. I think you're wrong. I think
that
Sarah...
she's not going to be important? She's a freaking
I think
firefighter
Sarah is going to have mating bond with him, and I predict that he... Pestilence, I wrote pesticide. I also predict that Pestilence is a misunderstood person /god/supernatural creature, and Sarah will understand him like no other has before, and only her love will make him see that the world should not be wiped out because it has not all gone to shit. This is my prediction. There is good worth saving, and he should not destroy it with the seas.
Boring. It's not going to happen like that. There's going to be twists. There's going to be more magic. There's going to be supernatural stuff. There has to be. You can't just have horsemen of the apocalypse. I know that it's biblical. And then Sarah is the one to save him from seeing that the world has not gone to shit. Because the world's gone to shit.
I think this is what's going to happen. I think he's going to, for whatever reason, she tried to kill him. Clearly he's not dead because, well, that would be a very short book. If he's dead at this point.
3 chapters, goodbye.
3 chapters, goodbye. No
missionary.
Not a single moment of missionary. No, I cannot stand by this. He's not going to be dead. He's going to come back, and there's going to be love because I've seen the covers. They're dancing.
Right. And you only dance with people you love.
Of course.
There's no dancing.
Never.
Oh, it's like back in the 30s and 40s where you had like the arm length to each other to dance, and like dainty hands on people's shoulders because like too much touching equals babies.
Of course. Did you know? You have to.
You have to touch to have babies. You have to have missionary to have babies.
With eye contact.
For all people looking to get pregnant, you need to have eye contact and missionary in order to conceive.
Yes. But no, we'll see which one of us are correct here. It's going to be exciting because we are at different camps here. Your camp, she's got to be magical. There's got to be more to it. And I'm camp, she will understand him like no one else does. And there will be
You're softer than me.
Well, I'm right. You're wrong. We'll see. I guess. So we're going to sign off now so we can get back to this reading because this book's not going to read itself.
Yay. Okay, see you later, everybody.
See ya. Bye. We'd Rather Be Reading is an original podcast by Jerrica and Leah Sanford. The music for The Penguins, written and performed by David Allred from the album The Transition, courtesy of Erased Tapes. Please check him out on Spotify and check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at We'd Rather Be Reading and on Twitter at We'd Rather Read. You can also email us at we'dratherbereadingthepod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.